What would you do if the person you loved turned your life into a nightmare, only to reappear years later asking for a favor that could ruin someone else? In today's story, the protagonist's choice is a masterclass in how to handle it. This all happened between 13 and 8 years ago. So the details are a journey. I had just ended a 9-year relationship with a girl I met in college. We broke up right as I was turning 29. And while no split is ever easy, this one was as clean as possible. There were no big fights. Very little drama. And I decided to move to a new city to be closer to my family and get a fresh start. I got an apartment. Started over. And things were looking up. And that's when I met Chloe. At first, Chloe seemed like the answer to everything. She was the polar opposite of my ex-wife. Quiet but kind. And she seemed to have her life together, which was a welcome change. She was physically a complete contrast. Wild in the bedroom, I honestly thought I had hit the jackpot. I fell for her. And I fell hard. We had a whirlwind romance and moved in together quickly. Our life felt glamorous. She was a corporate accountant. And I had a decent small business. Together, we were pulling in over $150,000 a year. We were renting a luxury apartment. Had one car paid off and another that was brand new. And no kids. Life was great. But I was blind to the underlying issues. Like the fact that we drank way too much together. One night, completely blitzed, we drove to Vegas and got married on the Strip. We had only known each other for 9 months. The ink on my divorce papers from my first marriage was barely dry. But it didn't matter. I was in love. My family seemed to like her. And her family absolutely loved me. We adopted cats and started talking about having kids. It all felt so perfect that we decided to upgrade our life, taking on more debt right as the housing bubble burst and the economy took a nosedive. Then, reality hit. Chloe lost a couple of jobs because she had a habit of not showing up on Mondays. And my advertising clients started cutting their budgets. So my business began to shrink. With money getting tight, things started to change. First, she started complaining. And then she became petulant. We couldn't spend money like we used to. The quarterly mini vacation stopped. And we were cooking at home instead of eating out 4 times a week. Then, a little more than a year into our marriage, we just stopped having sex. I was love blind and clueless at the time. But I later found out she had been cheating on me during this period. Realizing how deep in debt we were, I went out and got a job bartending at a posh resort. It was the only other marketable skill I had. I even picked up 2 other part-time gigs just to make ends meet. But it wasn't enough for her. Before I even got my first paycheck from these new jobs, she threw an ultimatum at me, placing all the blame for our financial problems squarely on my shoulders. Had we just held on for a few more months, we would have started to turn a financial corner. But I was done. I said, "Fine. Screw this then." This is where she went from petulant to a full-blown, two-faced monster. The night of our first big fight, she attempted suicide by scratching her wrist with a Leatherman tool before calling 911 herself. I came home to find cops in my apartment, telling me she'd been taken to the hospital. When I went to see if she was okay, she had the security guard throw me out. I use quotes around attempted suicide because there was a small collection of firearms I'd bought for her target shooting hobby nearby. completely untouched. It was obviously just a desperate ploy for attention. We fought for the next week. And I just gave in. I gave her everything she wanted. I left our home, signed my new truck over to her, and took only the things I had brought into the relationship. Just enough to fill a small storage unit. She was financially pinched. So to make it easier on her, I sold my own office furniture for cash and didn't touch our joint bank account. I fled to the Bay Area for a few months, hoping to land a job I was sure was mine. I didn't get it. I was broke, struggling. And one evening, I had a revelation: I drank too much. And it had caused a mountain of problems in my life. So I quit. I haven't had a drop of alcohol since. Defeated, I came back to my hometown and moved in with my dad. My business, once earning up to $8,000 a month, was now bringing in maybe $500. I got a roommate and a terrible retail job. At 31 years old, I was biking everywhere because I couldn't afford a car. My credit was destroyed thanks to our shared love of spending. And I was facing bankruptcy. It was humbling. But I knew it wouldn't last forever. Meanwhile, Chloe kept the house, declared personal bankruptcy on all her debts, kept her car, and started dating a string of new men just a couple of weeks after we split. At that moment, Chloe felt powerful, spinning her web of lies across our small town, completely unaware that the very reputation she was trying to build would make her eventual fall from grace all the more spectacular. She badmouthed me to a few of my friends, which was annoying. But then it got worse. She started dragging her feet on the divorce, claiming she didn't have the money to file, all while playing manipulative head games, saying things like, "I've realized I still love you. That's why you can make me cry so easily." Our suburb is a small, tight-knit community, so her lies spread fast. At my church, the bookstore I frequented, the coffee shop by my apartment, she told people I was a cheater, that I was abusive, that I was stalking her, and that I had stolen tens of thousands of dollars from her. It was all complete garbage. But some people believed her. I was even threatened one night by a wannabe biker twice my age. After more of her nonsense, including borrowing money she never paid back and sticking me with a huge cell phone overage bill, she finally left town. She was only ever nice to me when she wanted something, and I was relieved to see her go. She went to New York to move in with another guy and, seemingly 15 minutes later, got pregnant. She finally sent me the divorce paperwork, and I signed and returned it immediately. Perfectly notarized and organized. After the divorce was finalized, her child was born a week later. Then, for 2 blissful years, there was silence. In that time, my life completely turned around. I launched a new career and started advancing in it. And I started dating an amazing woman, Sophia, who I'm still with today. In a weird twist of fate, Sophia already knew Chloe and couldn't stand her. It turned out one of Chloe's infidelity partners had been Sophia's ex-husband. During a time they were trying to reconcile for their kids. 2 years after the silence began, I got a call from Sophia. She'd just spoken to a friend who had briefly been Chloe's roommate after our split. The news was that Chloe was breaking up with her baby's father, Ethan, and they were in a nasty custody battle. He was apparently claiming he didn't know if the child was his. And Chloe wanted my help. Despite everything, it felt like the right thing to do. So I agreed. When Chloe made that call, she saw me not as a person she'd wronged, but as a tool she'd used before and could use again. This transactional view of humanity, this utter lack of empathy, would prove to be the critical miscalculation that sealed her fate. She called me with a wild sob story. She claimed Ethan had taken their son and was denying paternity, insisting the child was actually mine. She said to prove it, I'd have to fly to New York for a paternity test. The story escalated into claims that he'd hit her, put a GPS tracker on her car, and that his brother was a Russian mobster who had threatened her. My rule of thumb by then was that if Chloe was talking, she was lying. So I was immediately suspicious. Her lawyer called me, and he sounded like a complete amateur. He sent me a letter that wasn't even on official letterhead. It looked like it came from a home printer. It was a simple, unprofessional statement for me to sign. I, Leo K., am the ex-husband of Chloe K., and was married to her from June 7th to August 9th. I have no legal interest in the child. The whole thing felt incredibly shady. I wasn't about to get legally screwed over. So I booked a consultation with my own lawyer. But before I could even go, the baby daddy, Ethan, found me on Facebook and sent me a message. Through calls with him, his lawyer, and the impartial lawyer the state of New York had appointed for the child, a very different story emerged. Ethan knew the child was his. He'd had a paternity test done secretly right after the birth because Chloe had been so promiscuous before they got together and had gotten pregnant so fast. They broke up because she was drinking heavily. He had caught her driving with their child in the car with a bottle of vodka. Then came the bombshell. Chloe had stood up in court and claimed that I was the biological father, and that she had no idea how to find me. Ethan found me in 10 seconds online. I'm a tech guy with a massive social media presence and my own domain name. I've had the same cell number for 14 years. And all the other dramatic stories? They were pure fiction. Ethan was an IT guy at a university, and his brother worked for a carpet cleaning chain. As one commenter on my original story astutely pointed out, you did well to survive her. She destroyed herself and tried to include you. And now she was trying to do it again. Not knowing that I now knew the truth, Chloe started texting me, asking if I had sent back the statement. I replied, filled out and on its way back to your lawyer. And then I tossed her shady document in the trash. I was tempted to send her a scathing message about the truth finally catching up to her. But I resisted. This wasn't for me. It was for her son and his father. I had to keep my ego out of it. Another person who read my story commended this approach, saying, kudos for keeping it actually professional and reaping the results of your patience. I provided formal legal statements to everyone involved in the court case. I stated that it was impossible for the child to be mine, providing the exact date I last saw her, April 15, 2008, and noting the child's birthday was in September of 2009. I proved I was thousands of miles away on the West Coast during the likely time of conception. I told them to look through her social media, where she meticulously tagged her location in thousands of pictures. I provided a blood sample to a local lab and shared salacious, but true, details about her drinking, prescription drug abuse, and a previous hospitalization for a psychiatric evaluation. The day of the court hearing arrived, and Chloe was completely blindsided. As Ethan later described to me, she walked in with an air of smug confidence, which evaporated the moment the judge began to read from the stack of depositions. Her face went white. My statements, Ethan's paternity test, proof of my location, and my testimony about her substance abuse, it all came out. The incredibly stupid, malicious game she was playing was fully exposed. She lost everything. The court awarded her no custody and no financial support. Only supervised visitation once a week. The fallout in my own town was just as dramatic. I ran into her former roommate, who was initially upset with me. I calmly explained the scam Chloe had been running and let her pull the real story of our breakup out of me. She was flabbergasted. And also being a horrible gossip. The story spread through town like wildfire. People I barely knew, including that biker who had threatened me, came up to apologize for misjudging me. My social media, which once shared triple-digit mutual friends with her, now showed only 3. That Christmas, Ethan sent me a massive Amex gift card, worth as much as I made in a week back then. I called him, insisting I couldn't accept it, that I hadn't done it for a reward. He practically begged me, his voice thick with emotion. "You helped save my family," he said. "This is nothing in comparison. Thank you." We both broke down crying on the phone. We ended up forming a strange, distant friendship built on mutual respect. I even had dinner with him a couple of times when I was in New York for business. And I always paid. The poor guy had been through enough. To this day, Chloe is apparently still struggling with sobriety and has minimal involvement in her son's life because she can't even show up for her supervised visits. Ethan tells me she's been in and out of legal and financial trouble, with a string of failed relationships. As for me, I'm doing well. I married Sophia. I've raised stepchildren. I'm financially successful. And I genuinely love my life. A large part of this is just karma. But I feel like I did the right thing. I wasn't petty. And my egoless revenge hit her exactly where it hurt the most, the truth. Ultimately, this story shows that while manipulative people can cause immense damage, their webs of lies are incredibly fragile. The simple, unvarnished truth, delivered with patience, is the most powerful form of vindication. Have you ever had to deal with someone who constantly twisted reality to suit their needs? And how did you handle it?